Welcome back, everyone, for another CBSI Hot 10 show. Make sure you go over to comicbookinvest.com and check out the article where I may put a few extra tidbits and details that I don't cover here on the show tonight. And also make sure you check out all the shows we have here on the channel. Make sure you like, you subscribe, you hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. And for those of you who have yet to try Whatnot, now's your chance. Use my link below and you get yourself a free $15 to spend on whatever you want with whomever you want. No strings attached, 15 bucks. You'll help out the channel. You get yourself something nice in the meantime. So you really got nothing to lose by giving it a try. And if you're in the market to get more supplies for yourself, you know, you need your bags, you need your boards, you need boxes, top loaders, etc. Whatever you need to keep your collectibles safe. If you're going to go to BCW, use my link, use my code RENA10 and save yourself 10% off. Because why not save some money if you got to buy that stuff anyway, right? So with all of that said, if you want to see this week's Hot 10 list, just hang out for a few seconds after the intro, and I will be right back.
Notable sales.
All right, first up, we have our first notable sale, and it is a classic pre-code horror. This is Dynamic Comics number 8. You got the melted wax face, brain sticking out there. Monster face is all in the background. This book hardly comes up for sale ever, and when it does, it always sets new record highs. And same thing happened this time. This is a CGC 1.0, just a 1.0. You'll see even with the details, there's a page reattached inside of this thing. So this is not the cleanest or nicest or prettiest copy in the world. And yet this copy still sold for $10,000 this week. $10,000 for a 1.0, which is very impressive. If you ask me, 10 grand for a 1.0, especially when the last one sold for only $1,500. Granted, that was all the way back in 2018, but that's a nice premium, a nice jump in price, a nice investment for somebody if they were able to buy that one for $1,500 and then it's 10 grand just a few years later. I think we'd all love to have that kind of return on our books, but yeah, 1.0, 10 grand. So it kind of stood out to me. Now, not all notable sales need to be all-time record-setting highs, etc. Sometimes they're notable for other reasons, and that's the case with the next book that I chose for this week, and this is Ultimate Fallout for the Marco Jurdovic cover, the 1 in 25 incentive, first Miles Morales. This book was the next great key only a few years ago, and how the mighty have fallen. Just going to say that. This week, a CGC 9.8 of this incentive sold for still $7,723. That's a lot of money. Do not get me wrong. 7 grand is a big chunk of change. But when you consider that just in September, the previous copy sold for over 10 grand, and now this one only sold for 7,700, that alone is a drop. Then you factor in that the all-time high, it's nowhere near the $43,000 this was at one time. $40,000. And yes, I know someone who sold one for one of those record high prices, and God bless them. They made out they did well, because look where we are today. You never can tell. You never can tell. But as I mentioned, not all notable sales need to be all-time highs. Sometimes the notable bit can be how low this is getting. And I don't know if this is the floor, but I mean, Miles isn't going anywhere. But we'll still see what happens with this book. It still has its ebbs and flows, its rises and falls. But I don't know if we'll, or when, if we'll get back to that all-time high, if we ever will reach those numbers again. We'll see. But with all of that said, those were our two notables for the week, which will take us to our actual list. So let's see what we got first.
Number 10.
Coming in first, off the outside looking in last week, we have Mark Spear's Monsters #1. Yes, this is the second print incentive. This is the second print. Well, I'm sorry, it's a 1 in 20, not a 1 in 25. But this is the incentive for that Monsters book. Came out just last week. Last week, we only had one sale, and that's why it was on the outside looking in. I couldn't put a book with only one sale on the list. Granted, we don't have a ton of volume this week either. But we do have a few sales, and the price has even gone up from where it was. So that's why this is grabbing a spot here at the bottom of the list. With only a few sold, it's now averaging $85. with the one high sale of $93 this week. That's for just, again, a 1 in 20 incentive that just came out last week. Those are some impressive numbers, even if the volume's not there. But the volume's not there because there's nobody buying. There's not that many out there. I mean, you'll go look, do a search for what's available, and you'll see, yes, there are still a handful out there, but many of them are at auction, and they'll be ending over the next few days. So we'll see if the market is still rising, falling, or where it's going. But for now, just based off of the few sales from this past week compared to the one sale the week before, I see the increase in volume and the increase in price as worthy of a spot here at the bottom of the list at number 10. So with that said, let's take a look at our next book.
Number 9.
And at number 9, we have yet another book that was also on the outside looking in last week for the very same reason. This is the 1 in 50 incentive for Sectaurs #1. This is a fun homage to that Uncanny X-Men 268. You know, the Cat, Black Widow, Wolverine cover by Jim Lee. Well done. I like it. But it's a 1 in 50. It made the OLI last week because, well, just like the Monsters book, only one sold last week. So I couldn't very well put it on the list last week with only one sale. But it still was a big sale. It was over $100 last week. And yet, even though the volumes are still very low, we only had a few sales, but the sales still are averaging $135 with a high of $144. So again, same story as the last book. Yes, we're not looking at big numbers volume-wise, but a lot of books aren't doing a lot of volume. I mean, the volumes we're seeing today are mostly still in the Absolute universe with DC. Batman, Absolute Batman's still selling well. Absolute Wonder Woman still selling well, even the price went down a little bit. Absolute Superman, it's doing well, but it's still available for cover. So we couldn't very well put that here, but that's where a lot of the volume is going. But this list is more than just volume. We're also looking for increases and fluctuations in price. So with that said, the rise in price here, along with the slight uptick in volume, because again, you can go search for this. It's not like there's dozens of copies of this available for you to go and purchase. This is not an easy book to find because not a lot of places ordered 50 copies of Sectaurs #1 from Oni. So not an easy book to find. It equates to some high prices and people are willing to pay it, which is why it's grabbing that number 9 spot here on the list. Now, with that out of the way and all that said, let's see what we got left here.
Number 8.
At number 8, we have our first new book of the week. This came out just this past Wednesday. This is Venom War #4. This is the John Jiang 1 in 25 incentive. Nice, gorgeous looking, creepy as hell Agent Anti-Venom. So, we have Venom War. We've got Agent Anti-Venom here. Rumors about Agent Venom coming to the screen at some point. Who knows? I think it's a mixture of all these things that has caused this book to see a little bit of interest on the aftermarket with, over a dozen sold, which isn't bad for 1 in 25 incentive on the week of release. I mean, we're doing this list on Friday. This book just came out Wednesday. So we're really only basing this off of a day or two's worth of volume. And averaging prices at $35 is a premium to that 1 in 25 incentive, along with a high sale of $65 just a couple of days ago. So we'll see if this one's hit its ceiling, if this one's going to keep moving at these prices. Who knows? All I know is it's drawn some interest this week, and it's claimed the spot here at number 8 on the list. So with that, let's keep this thing rolling and check out our next book.
Number 7.
We're sticking on the web side of things here with number 7, as we do have, again, Agent Venom. Sorry, I'm already misspeaking. Here we go. So Amazing Spider-Man 654, which is, I know, we're going to start getting into the weeds here of details. So this is Flash Thompson getting the Venom symbiote at the tail end of this book. Yes, there is a 654.1, which follows up on this story, and you see him flying around for the first time as Venom, all suited up. Yes, we do have him showing up in Secret Avengers, 22, 23, whatever number that one is, and he's calling himself Agent Venom at that time. These are all steps that we've taken to get to that stage, but this is the issue where Flash Thompson gets the symbiote, becomes Venom. So this is the book most folks have been gravitating towards, with this rumor that Agent Venom is the next stage for Sony with the Venom universe as far as films go. I mean, it makes a lot of sense if they go that route, but no official announcement yet. So let's just cool our jets a bit. But it is something that people are looking at. That said, this book came out a few years ago. It's been a little valuable for a while now. So it's still averaging around that $30 mark. But with a dozen sales this week after basically only a pair last week, this book was just not moving, despite the fact that it's priced around $25 to $35. It just wasn't selling. But now with the rumors, it's starting to move again. So keep an eye out for this. Keep an eye out for that second print, which is very, very expensive if you can find one of those. It basically takes an interior panel of the Venom with the symbiote and Flash and sitting in front of it. Very cool cover, but very expensive. But we're just talking about the regular one here in at number 7. And let's keep this thing rolling and see what we got in as our next book on the list.
Number 6.
Also new this week, this is the 5th anniversary of Something is Killing the Children, and they decided to celebrate that fact by issuing an issue 0, a sort of prequel issue to the series. And with that, and the number of incentives that they gave us for all of the different orders that shops might have ordered, there is an unlockable Virgin variant. I mean, it is Boom, and you know, Boom's been doing this for a while now, releasing these unlockables that, you know, as long as shops meet certain criteria, they will be able to get their copy of this unlockable variant. And with that, some of them hit, some of them don't do much. I mean, most of the time, these unlockables, they're like 10 to 15 bucks. 10 to 15 bucks out of the gate. They don't do much out of there, and they just kind of get forgotten about. They're just Virgin versions, usually, of the cover A or one of the other open order covers. And that's the same case here, where it's the Virgin of the cover A, but with a couple dozen sold already, you know, a couple dozen sold thereabouts, averaging a little over 20 bucks, 25 bucks, hitting a high of $30. This one is trending ahead of most of these Boom unlockables have lately, mostly because of the IP. It's because it's Something is Killing the Children. There are still a lot of fans of Something is Killing the Children and a lot of collectors that want to keep their collections growing with whatever they're going to release next. So they had to make sure they secured a copy of this one. So one to keep an eye on to see if this is it, or are we going to keep going up, or more going to sell over the next week or so. Point being, this is number 6, which will finish off the bottom half of our list. So let's get right in with the top half next.
Number 5.
And coming in at number 5, we have the longest title in the world. I didn't think they could make this title longer, but they did. Batman, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, number 0, the Batman Day Edition, cover by Tim Sale. That's a lot of words. Point being, this is the follow-up series to The Long Halloween, to Dark Victory. It's the last Halloween, so in theory, we would expect this to be the last maxi series that, you know, we're going to get out of Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale regarding this corner of the Batman universe. Cool, I'm into it, especially with all of the, you know, hype and fervor around Penguin. Best show on TV right now. A lot of ties there to The Long Halloween. You've got that tying in. Jeff Loeb also has Hush sequel, the Hush sequel coming up soon. So there's a lot of Batman excitement these days. So I understand people looking for this particular Batman Day edition. So you remember a few weeks ago, Batman Day, there were special edition comics that came out, and this is one of them. There is a regular version, which looks just like this, but the Batman Day edition has that little yellow Batman logo there on the corner, and that's the one that is moving at a bit of a premium. There's already a second print coming on the way for this book, so keep an eye out for that one as well. But with that said, a couple dozen sold, averaging 15 bucks, highs hitting about $20. While not super impressive, this is what we're looking at these days on the market, because the market isn't as is moving as much as it had in the summertime. Like, it happens every year around this time as New York Comic Con kind of wraps up, con season kind of ends, while it's starting to tighten as we start nearing that holiday season and people start buying Christmas presents for family members and etc. So we always see this. Every year this happens. The market starts to slow down a little bit. Again, a lot of movement as far as volume goes, but we're not seeing a lot of increases in prices or volumes on a lot of new stuff. So let's see what we got going on with our number 4 book next.
Number 4.
So coming in at number 4 is a book we've seen a few times before, and it is back again. And this is Uncanny X-Men 266. We're not going to get into the arguments over what the first is and why isn't, you know, the annual 14 the true first, but this one is on the cover. This is supposed to come out before. We're not getting into those. I'm not here to argue semantics over what's a real first and what's not. Point is, market seems to like this book more than the annual, so that's where we're at. So Uncanny X-Men 266, the Andy Kubert cover. This again is seeing an uptick in volume. While this one is a steady seller and has been for months, if not years, this past week, where it was like maybe around 20 sales last week, now we're looking a little over 30. So we're hitting a 50% or more increase in volume, and those prices are still right around where they've been, but kind of ticking up a tiny bit. CGC 9/8 inching over the $500 mark, and Raw's right around that $200 for decent raw grades. Now, that would include anything from very fine up to near mint, and near mint plus, I guess, but you won't see a lot of people listing near mint plus because most of those people go get it graded so they can sell you those 9/8s. That said, why is this book moving all of a sudden? Well, recent rumors and stories have been coming out with the upcoming release of Deadpool on Disney Plus in just a few days now. There's a lot of talk that Marvel and the MCU and Feige and the crew there are all very happy with Channing Tatum's, portrayal of the great, of the Cajuns. So maybe we see more of him coming up. Who knows? We do know there was a deleted scene where he did survive, the leftover universe or whatever we want to call it. So he could come back. He could come back. And oh boy, that would be something. That would be something. While it was very amusing for Deadpool, I don't know how a whole movie would play out like that with that accent. But yeah, we'll see. I'm willing to give it a try. I don't know about you, but I'm willing to give it a try. That said, let's check out our top 3 next.
Number 3.
So coming in at number 3, back on the list for another week and climbing up a spot or so, is Emily the Strange number 1. Yes, indie announcements usually don't do that well, but Emily the Strange is kind of defying those indie odds that we normally see. I mean, here we go. Emily the Strange number 1. Last week there was like 20 plus sales. It was averaging like $20. This week it's averaging $50, even though volumes are down, but there's also not a lot of copies available. So a lot of the stock cleared out in that first week, and now we're starting to see more remnants and people digging in boxes to pull out their copies to take advantage of this rise in value, but prices are still going up. I mean, this even sold for a high of $170 this week, with multiple copies hitting that $100 mark. So that's why we do have an average of 50, but we had a couple $100 sales and one hit 170 raw, mind you. I don't know where the ceiling is on this book. I thought we've already hit it, but who knows? Who knows? And we'll see what actually comes out of this. Is it just the time of year that not a lot moving and not a lot going on, not a lot of real new news, so people are reaching for anything that comes out? I don't know. I don't know what the case is, but this is what we're working with, and this is what the market is doing this week. So this is what we're talking about. So with that said, we've got 2 books left, and let's see what they are.
Number 2.
Coming in at number 2, we have another one of those, well, I don't want to call it indie option news, but it's video game option news. Now, Mass Effect is a very popular, video game series. I played some of it. I didn't play through all of it because it is pretty lengthy and it is pretty involved. I'm more of an Assassin's Creed type player personally, but Mass Effect did get announced that is being adapted, and this caused, again, a little bit of a ruckus in the back issue market. So people started digging out this Dark Horse comic, since this is technically the first comic appearance of the property. I mean, just because it's a video game being turned into a movie or TV show, it always causes a stir in the comic market when these things happen. So people just want to go grab the comics that tie into these things. It just happens every single time. And with that, we've seen over 30 plus sales already since the news, which is only a couple days old. This quickly went from just being like a cover price book to starting selling for $10 at a clip to hitting a high at $25. So I don't even want to say where the average is, because again, we're talking about a couple days sales where the price surged from cover to 10 to 15 to 20 up to $25. I don't know where the ceiling is on this one yet either. We'll find out over the next week or so. But this is why this one is coming in at number 2, because again, a little bit of news. People start going and digging out books. We start seeing action on the aftermarket. So with that said, we've got 1 book left, and then we will wrap it up for this week. So let's see what that book is.
And our number 1.
And coming at number 1, sorry to disappoint the DC universe, but Absolute Books are not on the list this week. It is not for their fault of trying. Again, I mentioned earlier on, Absolute Batman still doing well. The second print of Absolute Batman #1 is still doing well, with issue 2 due out next week. Absolute Wonder Woman's still selling at volume, but the prices kind of come down. And Absolute Superman, while moving, as it just came out this week, it's still basically a cover price book. So it hasn't risen in value yet. That isn't to say in the next few days we're not going to see Superman start selling for $8 to $10, because it could happen. It may happen. That's what happened with Wonder Woman and Batman. So it could happen, but it hasn't happened yet. So what do we got at the top here? We have Spider-Boy #11. What is this, you ask? Well, this is technically the first appearance of the new Spider-Girl character. While she's not named in this book, the character does first appear here in the tail end of this book as sort of an understudy to Bullseye, and then in the next issue, issue 12, where she's featured on all the covers. A lot of people like to call that the first full Spider-Girl, because she does wear that Spider-Girl outfit, whereas in the tail end of this issue, she's just dressed up like a ninja. We don't know a lot about the character. What I've told you is basically it. That's all we've really got to go on. But considering Marvel's already released the second print of this book, and she's getting a decent bit of a push with that issue 12 as it was already, Marvel is putting some effort behind this character. So we'll see what comes of it. I do like this cover. I like the angle of it, hanging on the back of the school bus. It's it's inventive. It's different. I dig it. And this book has kind of went up and down a little bit. But this week, we've seen another 30 plus sales, averaging about $20. Some high sales hitting 45, 40, seen plenty in the $30 range. Meanwhile, I've also seen like lots of all the different covers, because there were multiple covers on this book, sell for like $30 at a clip, but that was for multiple books. So a lot of lots of different covers went together. So pricing is a little bit inconsistent, because there are some cheap sales sneaking in here, and there are some, just like double cover type of sales still even available. Meanwhile, they're mixed in with a lot of people asking $25, $30, $35. So again, the market is kind of fluctuating right now with this book, but there's still enough action. There was still enough of a jump that this one kind of commanded my attention and the top of the list in what is, again, a pretty slow week as far as the market goes. So with that all said, hopefully you enjoyed this list. Hopefully you found this information helpful, useful. And make sure you stick around after I'm done here. The boys with the qualified will be starting up next. They'll be doing a Betty Page sort of a little spotlight on the character and some of the comics. So if you're into that, or even if you're not into it, check it out anyway, because the boys are always entertaining and get into some shenanigans and some fun stuff, as well as they'll cover the outside looking in, which were a handful of books that didn't quite make it onto the list this week. That, hey, who knows? Just like last week, some of those books made it to the list the week after. So maybe it happens again. Who knows? And with that all said, I'll see you all later with some more content. All right.